So I've kind of just been a hermit the last few days, so I'm thinking maybe I should go outside and maybe do something productive or whatever. Yeah, fuck that. Let's talk about combining this with this. Yes, the PS2 is admittedly an old console, about 17 to 18 years old. Some of you have not even been alive that long. This PS2's seen more than your entire life. But that doesn't mean that it still can't put out and give you a good time. That sounds dirty. Forget I said that. So let's talk about what we can do to kind of just give this a little bit of more of a competitive edge, just look a little better and be able to do a few more things than it was originally meant to do. Probably the easiest thing you could do is get yourself one of these PlayStation 2 component cables. You got this end, plug it into your multi-AV out port on the PS2. Now the RN is your component cables with the audio. Not as good as like HDMI, but it is way better than RCA. But yes, the PS2 can support components and therefore being able to improve its picture quite a bit on modern TVs. Next is a wireless controller. You can buy like 2 of these for like 15 bucks on eBay. You just have a dongle, plugs into the controller there, and batteries in the controller obviously, and it talks to the dongle. But let's take it one step further. You're probably aware of the soft mod you can do with PlayStation 2. Most notably the free McBoot mod, which you can either put free McBoot on a PS2 memory card like this, or you buy one, which is the route I went. It's suggested to not have your saved games and stuff on the same memory card as free McBoot. You want to have them be separate. So for like $8 online, you just buy one of these, wait a week, and it shows up at your door. Simple as that. So there's a few steps in the process there that you just don't have to worry about. So I'm going to do that, but on top of that, I'm going to do it using an SSD, notably a Samsung Evo 840. 250 gig capacity. The goal here is just to see if the PS2 can really utilize the faster read and write speed that the SSD is capable of. Why would you want a hard drive on your PlayStation? Why, simply to copy games from the game disc and onto the hard drive itself. That's why. A few different programs come with free McBoot, including ones that access the hard drive and they're able to access game images you can load onto the hard drive. You'd be able to load that image off the hard drive and actually run it as if you just put the game in the optical drive on the PlayStation. Essentially, you wouldn't have to take the game disc out of the case and use it to actually put it in the PlayStation. So that keeps your discs from kind of getting worn out and scratched and stuff, which is always nice. We've always hated it when the disc gets to that point where it just won't play. Also, you'd be not wearing out the optical drive on the PS2 as well. That's always a plus because these are kind of limited. They're finite. A hard drive, if that breaks down, you just go buy a new one. So, what do you need to soft mod a PlayStation? Well, you need a PlayStation. Go figure, right? Not the slim ones. I know free McBoot works on some of the slim ones, but I don't think any of the slims actually have an expansion bay like this one does. And we're going to want this expansion bay to house a hard drive to store all our games on. So we need a fat PS2, essentially. We're going to need an SSD. Easy enough. We're going to need some sort of network adapter. There are 3 options you can go with the network adapter. There's the original Sony network adapter that you can buy for the PS2. It actually works as a network adapter, but instead of having an SATA connector here, it's the old ATA connection, like for the older hard drives that have, they were just slower, typically didn't hold as much storage, tended to be heavier and louder too. But there is no SSD that has that type of connector. They're all the well, there's some SSDs that are M.2, but you know, your typical SSD just has an SATA connection. Your second option would be to get an original Sony network adapter, and you're able to take the metal part off and take out the circuit board that has that ATA port on it, and able to replace it with one that has an SATA port on it. This tends to be the most expensive option because you have to buy an original network adapter, which tends to be more expensive than what I'm holding here. I'll get to this thing in a minute. And you have to buy the circuit board to fit in there as well. You're looking at like 40 bucks. Enter option 3, a third-party network adapter that costs about $22, so it's definitely the cheapest way to go. The only downfall is it does not actually have a network adapter in there. If you were to pull the sticker off, you'd find an Ethernet jack, but it's just a dummy jack. It's like, I don't even know why they put it in there. It's mainly just used for connecting the SATA drive to the PlayStation, and that's all I really wanted to do in this mod, so I went with this. I didn't want to spend a buttload of money on it anyway. And lastly, you're going to need a memory card that has free McBoot on there. Like I said, there are ways to take a blank memory card and put free McBoot on it. I wanted to skip all that. I found it easier just to buy one. Either way, you'd get one of these cards. If you're looking to make one of these cards yourself, I'd recommend going to Mr. Mario's Softmod PS2. Just look that up. You'd find his video. It's actually was a great help for me to figure out how to do this myself, so I have to give kudos to him for putting that video out. It was very helpful. And he does explain in detail how to create one of those. But alas, I'll skip past that. If you're going to do this and you're just going to use a regular 3.5-inch form factor hard drive, you won't need to worry about this next piece. But since I am trying to do a 2.5-inch form factor drive into this thing, I bought this little contraption. Just a hunk of plastic. You're able to mount the 2.5-inch form factor drive right into the corner there, and it allows this thing to fit inside a 3.5-inch form factor bay. Most other adapters that allowed you to mount a 2.5-inch form factor drive in a 3.5-inch bay tended to like have the 2.5-inch one like be in the middle of it or something like that. This puts it in the corner so that the SATA connectors line up with where they would be if the drive itself was a 3.5-inch form factor. See how that kind of works there? It kind of lines up. This is important when the network adapter you're literally screwing onto the back of the PlayStation is kind of fixed as to where it is in its placement. You can't really move this thing around. It's going to be in one spot, and it's meant to be right where this connector goes. So if you're going to do a 2.5-inch form factor, you need it to land right where that would go to. So that's where this comes in, and that's what we need as far as hardware goes. We're going to need a few software tools. I'll put links to these in the description. So we have it's called Free Hard Drive Boot Pack. That's what the FHDB stands for. So we're going to download. All right, we'll navigate to where that downloaded. Bam, here it is. So it's a zip file. I'm going to go ahead and extract into its own folder. Typically for me, after I have extracted something, just so I don't have a bigger mess, I delete the zipped file because I don't see the need for it when I have an unzipped version of it right in the same subfolder. All right, now we have FHBD 1.93. We'll need that later. We'll have HDD Raw Copy 1.1. We'll need that later. The thing that we need now is the WinHip version 1.76. Extract that into its own folder. Again, delete the zipped version. Go into there. Now we have the WinHip application. We're going to want to open this. But first, we're going to want to attach the drive. I guess for a hardware aspect, we're going to need some way to connect your hard drive or SSD to your computer. So we use WinHip to format the drive into something that the PlayStation can recognize. But before that, I've realized that WinHip can have issues when there's more than one partition on the hard drive. If you have a hard drive or SSD that has more than one partition, or really just any partition on there, go ahead and delete that. So the drive that we want to end up being inside of our PlayStation, we've connected that to our computer. It's time to launch WinHip. You need to run it as an administrator. So how you do that is you right click on it and then click on Run as Administrator. And it's going to confirm yes. Click OK. It's like it's a welcome message. First thing we're going to do, we're going to select what drive we want to convert to our PS2 one. Oh geez, I have 5 connected to mine. Which one is the one that I'm wanting? This is important that you don't get the wrong one. If you do, it does erase everything on that drive and you will lose everything on there. Notice that it numbers the drives. We go to our PC and we have letters, but no numbers. What gives? Typically, if you get a brand new drive, it may not be formatted. If it's not formatted, it doesn't show up here. So how do you even see it? How do you know what number it is? You right click on this PC, you click on manage. This is going to open the computer management window. We'll go down and click on disk management, and it's going to look on the computer and look at all the drives that are connected to it and bring them up as a list here. So we have each disk, their numbers, this is what we're looking for, and all their individual partitions that are on each disk. Disk 4, it's unallocated, so I knew that my drive was not formatted. Also, I knew on the back of the SSD it said 250 gig capacity. This is a little less, because you know, if it says something like 250 gig, the available free space is always going to be less than that. Also, I don't have any other 250 gig hard drives or SSDs connected. But now I know which disk number it is. Just don't get the wrong one. Anyway, so disk 4 is what I want. Click. And this message is to be expected. It's not formatted as a PS2 hard drive yet. It's not formatted as something as that the PS2 is going to recognize. So this message is going to come up. That's fine. We just click OK. That's why we're even here. We're going to fix that. We're going to click on the options button. Just double check a couple things. We're going to want to make sure that this is selected as 48-bit HD loader. And we're going to make sure that this checkbox is checked. I know when I first tried to do this, it was not checked, and I was having issues with actually getting it to format the drive until I checked that. And I don't exactly know what it does, but it seems to make it work. But if you do know what it does exactly and why you'd want that unchecked, feel free to comment. I would like to know. After that, we click OK and we click Format Drive. Again, making sure the erase mode is quick, because I mean, you could do a full one that would completely rewrite all the ones and zeros on there, but that would just take longer. There's really no need. And then HD loader 48-bit. Okay, click OK. It's gonna ask you twice if you're really sure that you want to erase everything on there. Again, make sure that nothing's on there that you want to keep. And there we go. Just like that, we're formatted. And this is a message saying something like, if you put this hard drive in your PS2 and boot that PS2 up, you might get a software agreement license thing or whatever. You can just click that. You're just saying, okay, I'm aware of that. No big deal. And for the moment now, we're good with this program. So I'm going to go ahead and close it. And we're going to move back to our downloads. I'm going to move to the other two utilities that we got. So we got the raw copy. We're going to install this program. Launch. Yep. Perfect. And yep, we'll launch it after it's installed. Before we do anything here, we're going to want to go to this HDB 1.93 .img. So this is an image file. This is like a hard drive image file. We're going to use HDD Raw Copy Tool to copy this image onto our PS2 hard drive. But we need to extract it first, so let's do that. I was saying this is only about 10 megabytes, but then you go into the extracted one and it's 7.6 gigs. Like, that was very compressed. So after we've extracted that into its own disk image file, we're going to go to our HDD Raw Copy Tool. We're going to want to find a source image to copy to our hard drive. Since it's a file, we're going to click on that. We're going to navigate to our extracted, select it, open. Click continue. Now it's asking, where do we want to copy that source file to? We want to copy it to our hard drive, the one that's going in the PlayStation. Again, double check, make sure you know which one it is before clicking continue. So, click continue. Again, verify where your source is coming from, where it's going, and everything looks good. So let's click start. Warning you that everything's going to be overwritten if you do this. Just click yes. And eventually you're going to get to 100%. And at that point you can go ahead and, alright, task complete. Awesome. Go ahead and just close that window. Now we're ready to actually add some games. There are two ways to do this. The first way is we can go back to WinHip. Again, right click on it, run as administrator, confirm yes. I'm going to need a game. Got two games. because I'm going to show you two different ways to do it. So we'll try Crash Bandicoot for the very first one. We're going to select our drive. Oh look, drive 4 is labeled PS2 now. Right on. We'll click the Add Image option, and we're going to click CD DVD drive. So, put the game... Place your game into your drive. Click Add Image, and select the CD DVD drive. Alright, here it says menu name. So when you go into later, we'll get on the PlayStation. We'll open up a application, and it'll actually show the names of all these. So it'll be listed in them, like just a big list of games. So this is going to be what that name appears as in that list. So I'm going to name it as it says on the case. Perfect. Click OK. These other buttons here, for the most part, you don't really have to touch them. I guess if you know what you're doing, some games might require some sort of patch or something to actually make them work. Some games do get a little buggy if you copy them over to a hard drive like this. But in this case, we don't really need to do any of that. Just leave that alone and just click OK. And now it will start adding that game to the hard drive. It's pulling it directly from the game disk in the optical drive and copying it over to the hard drive that will go in the PS2. The speed at which this does this is going to vary depending on how fast the optical drive you have installed in your computer is. The faster it can go, the faster this process will be. Alright, our image has been installed. We can click OK, and there we have our own... Okay, yeah, there we have Crash Bandicoot on there. Yay! But hey, what about this other option here, this image file option? Well, that's if you already have a game image already on your computer, whether you've downloaded it illegally or whatever, or if you used a different method to get it on your computer from your game disk. And that's where the ImageBurn comes into play. So we're gonna, again, I'll provide a link to that in the description. Download that. Go to our, where I downloaded the file. Gonna set up ImageBurn. Now, it tries to install other stuff as well. Just gotta watch out for that. Don't just sit there and click next, 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 next through the whole thing. Pay attention to what each step is. Like here, it's asking where I want it to be installed and provides a place for it as a default one. Asks what I want it to be named. So we got something called ByteFence and a Yahoo toolbar that'll be... It's just crap that I know I don't want. Let's uncheck that. Same here. Let's click there. Okay, let's do not install Chromium. Do not set Yahoo's. This is default. Who wants Yahoo? Come on. Okay. So we got that. No, I don't want it to check. I don't see the need to, honestly. So that's been installed. So now we're going to launch ImageBurn. Well, let's do a different game this time. I was thinking doing Downhill Domination, but I actually would rather do Smuggler's Run 2. And we have a few different options here. Can be useful for things, but we mainly are interested in the create image file from a disk. So we have our source. That's the game itself. And then we have our destination. This is the folder that the game image file will go to. We click this to determine exactly where we want that. I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to... Why would you name it anything other than what it's actually called? Like, it just makes it easy. Click Save. Looks like we're all good here. Source, destination. We click this button to go, and we just do the waiting game for a little bit. Feel free to break out that solitaire. I don't even know if I have solitaire on this. Does Windows 10 even have solitaire? Huh. Okay. Well, I give up at this point. If it's just not the old style solitaire that I enjoyed on Windows XP, then I don't give a crap. And when it's done, you'll be greeted with a little message box and a fun little jingle. I don't know why, but just go with it. So we're done with this program. That's really all you'd use it for. I'd almost prefer the WinHip method, where you just use WinHip to copy the disk image directly from the game over to the drive that's going in the PlayStation. But one advantage of using ImageBurn is that you're able to save that as a file onto your computer and then copy that file over to the drive. that's going in the PlayStation. Should the hard drive or SSD that's in the PlayStation ever fail, you could just buy another drive, connect it to the computer, format it, and then copy all the games over that are on your computer over to that drive again, stick it into the PlayStation, and you're good to go again. And you never, and in that sense, you never have to touch your games at all. You know, these games can go up on the shelf just like mine are up here. Yeah, about there to there are all PS2 games on my shelf. And I guess, too, if you manage to get it some other way by downloading or something like that, this is the way to do it, too. So after that, we have our image file stored on the computer. We could do this with a bunch. Like I did this previously already with a bunch of, like, all my games, and just sat there and ripped them game after game until I had them all on the computer. And then I just clicked add image file, and here you can build a list of all the images you want. So you can, even if they're not even stored in the same folder, you can still add them to the same list here. So you want to add a file to that list. You can like add all of them all in one go, and then add, I don't know if I have any, okay, I don't have any PS1. I think I have a PS, yeah. So I have some more here in a different, full-on different drive. I can add them to that, so I can have all these here. Let's not worry about doing all those now. That'd take forever. Let's just do the one. We'll do Smugglers Run 2. So you compile the list, all the images you want to put in, if it's just one or if it's like 150. You get them all put here, and you just click Start. Same thing here. Yeah, I'm all good. So click OK, and it will transfer it over. Perfect. So that's been added. Click OK, and now we see we have Crash Bandicoot that was put on one method, and Smugglers Run 2 that was put on the other method. At this point, when you got all your games on there, you're good to just get everything assembled and put together. We can exit this. We're going to, and then you disconnect the drive that's going to go in your PS2. We're going to disconnect that from the computer. Alright. So one mistake I've made is just assuming that I can drop this right in the PlayStation, and then just sticking the network adapter on there, and then just assuming that it's going to plug into the drive. With a full-size hard drive, that still doesn't happen. Because of that, I recommend plugging the network adapter right into the drive before you stick it into the PlayStation. What's wrong here? It's aligned? There we go. Alright, then just carefully slide the whole thing in there. You can feel it kind of plug into the motherboard of the PS2 though, so you know you're good there. And for good measure, we're gonna tighten up these two screws. I think it's funny how they're like thumb screws, but they're recessed into the thing, so you can't actually use them as thumb screws. Next, we take our free McBoot memory card. I'm gonna put it in 2. Put my regular memory card in 1, just so I don't get that mixed up. I always save to memory card slot 1, and it's always the one that games want to save to by default. And then I'm gonna plug in the dongle for my controller. Alright, let's plug this in, see how well we did. At this point, we got it hooked up. Just turn it on. You see it shows the free McBoot thing there. So it just, pulls right off the memory card and boots off of that. We have a few options. I'll be honest, I don't know what all of them are. What we're mostly concerned about now is the Open PS2 Loader options. We'll navigate down to that, hit X. It's going to launch a program that allows us to look at the contents of the hard drive, basically. It's going to be looking for the games on the hard drive. And there we go. There are the 2 games that we have. Let's do Wrath of Cortex. That's the one I'm mostly wondering about. Finally, we're at our hub world. So let's time how long it takes to load level 1. Okay, so I'm gonna...
What are you looking at, fuzzhead?
That's right, you get this little...
Hey, Rocco. Dr. Cortex woke me from my...
I don't care. Alright, timing that. Huh, about 3.5 seconds. Let's try loading level 2. Three and a half seconds. I mean, I'm not precise with my starting and stopping my stopwatch. But so yeah, we're looking at about 3.5 second load time. I also have Crash installed in this 2.5 inch form factor mechanical drive, and this 3.5 inch mechanical drive. Let's just really quick see what that's like. You know, I really don't think there's gonna be much difference between a 2.5 inch mechanical hard drive and a 3.5 inch mechanical hard drive. So I'm just gonna take the SSD directly out and just plug in the 3.5 inch one. To clarify, that your games don't save their data on the hard drive, although that would be kind of cool if they did. They still save them on their own on the PS2's memory card, so you're still gonna need one of those plugged into it to be able to save. As you can see, yeah, I've all the games I have up here. I've put on to this particular hard drive.
What are you looking at, fuzzhead? I'm Rocco, the Earth Elemental.
I get tired of hearing you, Rocco. Ooh, yeah, 3.5. Interesting. 3.5 seconds again. Stop down a little, but yeah, about 3.5 seconds. So it doesn't seem like we really have any difference between an SSD and a mechanical hard drive. Kind of what I'm thinking. It's either the CPU and the PlayStation that's bottlenecking the speed, or it's the network adapter, because it has to relay communications between the PlayStation and the hard drive. Let's do one more experiment. So we see how long it takes us to load those two levels when you're pulling from either an SSD or a hard drive, and it seems to be about the same. But just to show you, I mean, that's still a huge improvement no matter which way you go. That's still a huge improvement compared to loading it from the actual disk. And to show you, I thought I'd actually, you know, pop it in and show you how much ridiculously longer it takes to do it. Now, it's still like a regular PS2. You put a disc in there and you just wait. I'll just automatically launch the game off the disc. Ow! Dang it, hit my elbow on the counter. Go into level 1. Again, right when it shows that load screen. Okay, that elemental dude's gonna show up. Shut up. I'm not even gonna let him speak this time. I can actually just sit back. I know it's gonna take a while. Yeah, like you barely even see him fall into the screen, you know? 16 seconds. Sheesh. Yeah, I think I stopped it a little late. That was 25 seconds. That's 7 times faster. Number 2. He's my number 2 man. I call him number 2. .5 seconds about. Yeah, we're talking about 7 times faster just to have it boot off the hard drive. That's awesome. And apparently, just like I thought, it doesn't matter if it's on an SSD or a mechanical hard drive. It's not the read and write speed of the drive itself that's bottlenecking the speed. It's either the network adapter on the PlayStation or it's the CPU in the PlayStation itself. And this is technology that's like 18 years old now. It was only so fast, and this is well before SSDs were invented. So if you're going to put an SSD in a PlayStation, you're not putting it in there for faster speed. It's the same. But if you're going to put one in there, that's still, it's not a bad idea because they're lighter, they're quieter, they don't produce as much heat, and they will still last a lot longer than a mechanical hard drive. The only drawback is that it's a little more expensive, but you know, whatever. SSD prices are dropping rapidly, so it's a much more feasible option than it ever was before, which is cool. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up. So that's how if you have any questions on that, feel free to put that in the comments. If there was a part of the soft modding process you didn't quite get, if you're really wanting to see how to make a free McBoot memory card, if you really want that, you can comment in that and I can get around making that. But you know, if you have any questions too, feel free to check out the Mr. Mario video as well, because that's where I learned how to do this personally, and I felt like it was a very informative video. Other than that though, thanks again for watching. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video.